Look, I'll be honest with you. I've been a Deion doubter since day one. I thought he was all hype, no substance. Right? He wins the press conference but loses games. Even this year, I'll be honest with you, at 8-2, I have a tough time buying into Colorado as a real college football playoff contender because all they've done is beat up on the bad teams in the Big 12. They've not played anybody good. So I have been a P1 Deion doubter, if you will. And in part because there's been nothing that I could truly latch onto of substance that I could believe in up until today. The Julian Lewis commitment to Colorado is the first real thing where I can look at it and say, you know what? Deion's really doing it. He's serious about it. And I have to say, for the first time when talking about Deion Sanders, I was wrong. He's building something for real in Boulder. There is some sustainability here with this program. It's not just a bunch of smoke and mirrors, 2 or 3 year fun little thing, and then you're off and out of there. There are roots being planted, which I did not think was going to happen. And this is such a huge commitment that changes really the landscape of college football moving forward. I have to give my props to Deion and start to say, you know what? What he's doing is real. What we're seeing with Colorado is not a facade. It is the real deal, and this program's now on an upward trajectory. And you can look at, okay, he took over their, they had 1 win, 4 wins, 8 wins, and counting. You could look at it and say, oh, look at the progress. But there was not enough actual, real, tangible signs of incremental growth that this would be sustainable once Shedeur Sanders left, once Travis Hunter left. And now you're starting to see that next wave of replacements. Now you're starting to see what Deion is actually doing is working because recruits now are starting to believe in what he's doing. If they're telling you it's real, I have no choice but to say it and agree what he's doing is real. This to me is a monumental get for Deion Sanders in Colorado, getting the number 2 player in all of the country to commit to their school. In case you don't know much about Julian Lewis, and you just said, number 2 player in the ESPN 300, number 2 quarterback in that class as well. He's been committed to USC since last year and has recently just decommitted and now has flipped his commitment from USC to Colorado. And this is massive, again, not just because he left Lincoln Riley for Deion Sanders. He also said no thank you to Kirby Smart. He ditched USC. He said no thank you. He's from Georgia. He did not go to his hometown Dogs and instead now is going 3/4 across the country to go play for Deion Sanders. When a recruit tells you, no thank you to Lincoln Riley, no thank you to Kirby Smart, I believe in Deion Sanders, I have to believe. This is real. This is legit. Up until this point, really up until today, I did not buy Deion actually truly wanted to be an invested coach, like a real college football coach. I thought he wanted to coach his kids and have fun doing that. In terms of what it actually took to be a successful college coach, grinding, working hard, going on the road recruiting, always game planning. Every time you look around, Deion Sanders is talking to someone else in the media, doing another interview. And never seemed like he actually loved the true profession of coaching. He liked the perks that came with it, but never actually liked doing the work. And for a while, I just kind of took that as he's not serious about it. This is all willy-nilly. You see some of the staff changes he made at Colorado last year that were just bizarre and it just felt like knee-jerk. It didn't really feel like Deion knew what he was doing. But now you're starting to see, in fact, this guy is figuring it out. He's actually committed to coaching. He's invested. Because you're not putting in this work to land the number 2 overall quarterback in the class if you were planning on going to the NFL. If you were planning on going to another school next year. If you were planning on retiring once your kids left and doing something else, going to the media, whatever. He's putting in the work to tell you he's not going anywhere. He's actually trying to make Colorado work. Julian Lewis, as now I guess kids do these days, made his announcement not by, in a school gym putting a Colorado hat on, but instead going on the Pat McAfee show and announcing his decision to go to Colorado. Julian also did explain what he saw in Colorado that led him to choose the Buffs.
Of course, I'm excited to learn under Coach Shermer and Coach Brown about it. I was talking about it the other day. I don't think there's a a better person to learn how to read defenses and coverages than Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. So, I mean, just trying to grow mentally is my big thing.
It's a huge get right now for Deion. He's going to develop, or at least going to try to develop Julian Lewis. And now you look like, again, we talked about it in yesterday's show, right? I didn't think Deion had a chance of being the Cowboys coach, not because he didn't want to, but because I thought Jerry Jones would never hire him. But his name, Deion, has been floated around the NFL now for weeks. Put that to bed. Deion is not leaving Colorado. He's going nowhere. He's now in Boulder, I would say, for at least the next 3 years. I know the transfer portal can change and you can go really anywhere and his players can follow. But at least to me, like, it feels like he is going to be there at least for the next wave. Now you have the next wave after Shador, after Travis Hunter. The next wave's coming in. Because also remember this, Lewis is not coming by himself. Right, like right now when you look at the recruiting class for Colorado, it's not been very good up until today. They have 10 other commitments for the class of 2025. All 10 outside of the ESPN 300. They don't have a lot of, playmakers. They don't have a lot of blue chip prospects coming to Colorado. Lewis is the first, but he won't be the last. Because again, he is not going to Colorado to be a one-man show. He's bringing help. And I think now you got to look and keep an eye out the next few weeks here when it comes to like the recruiting rankings and some rumors here. I bet you a few other players flip. A few players maybe committed to Alabama, Georgia, USC, wherever. I bet you a few follow Lewis to Colorado, and you look at this recruiting class for Deion looking decent, looking pretty good. Now you're starting to see waves of talent, young talent, enter Boulder. This is real. This is real, and I give Deion a lot of credit here. Again, I was a big-time doubter. I did not believe in the viability of him. I did not believe that he was actually in this to coach and make Colorado better. Today's the first day where I'd say I was wrong, where this is actually real. When you are able to convince and recruit and put the work in to have the number 2 quarterback in all the class who could have went anywhere, when you make the right pitch and you have the right plan to tell him and have him say, you know what, I want to go to play for Coach Prime, that shows you if the players are believing in you, I have to as well. I'm a believer in Deion Sanders not going forward. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is I'm not believing him to win a national title. That to me is still a bridge way too far. You have a long way to go before we're talking about Colorado being in national title contention. But can Colorado now, the next 5 years, let's just say, can they be in the mix of the Big 12 title every year? Can they make the College World Playoff 3 out of the next 5 years? I think that answer is yes. I think they could be in the mix and be the team to beat in the Big 12 each of the next 5 seasons. But I think there's still a wide gap between where they are and where Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, where those teams at the top are, there's still to me a huge gap between them and Colorado. But the Buffs are closing it. They're starting to get there. They're inching their way up. But in terms of running the Big 12 and making frequent appearances in the college football playoff over the next 5 years, I think Colorado absolutely can accomplish that now under Deion Sanders, which is something I thought would never even be remotely possible in his time as Colorado's head coach. Deion, Colorado, they to me prove today they're for real.